Have you ever felt invisible? Just another face in the crowd, going through the motions of a life no one really notices. That's exactly who our story is about today. A man so ordinary, he was practically a ghost. He lived a quiet life, worked a tedious, mind-numbing job, had no friends, and left zero digital footprint. No social media, no online profiles, nothing. To the world, he was a nobody. But behind this mask of mediocrity was a mind unlike any other. A mind that could see the world not as a collection of people and places, but as a series of interconnected systems. And in every system, he could spot the flaws, the cracks that everyone else missed. He didn't just see them. He understood them with a clarity that was almost supernatural. One day, while sifting through endless streams of public data tasks that would bore most people to tears, he found something. It was a tiny, almost insignificant anomaly in a massive government database. To anyone else, it would have been a glitch, a rounding error. But to him, it was a doorway. He saw a vulnerability so profound it could trigger a national crisis. The logical, responsible thing to do would be to report it, right? Anonymously, of course. But that's not what he did. A different idea sparked in his mind. A question that began to burn with an obsessive fire. Could one single, unknown individual truly manipulate a machine as vast and powerful as a national government? He decided he had to find out. This wasn't about fame or money or even chaos. This was a test of the system and a test of himself. And so, the game began. From the shadows of his unremarkable apartment, using nothing more than a standard computer and his own extraordinary intellect, he started to move the pieces on the board. He didn't hack in the traditional sense. There were no brute force attacks or flashy code. He used the system's own rules against it. His methods were subtle, almost poetic. He would make tiny surgical alterations to data streams, a changed decimal point here, a rerouted piece of information there. These changes were so small they were initially dismissed as clerical errors, but they were seeds. Seeds of confusion that he planted deep within the bureaucratic machine. He was a ghost in the machine, and the machine had no idea it was being haunted. What made his actions so terrifyingly effective was his patience and his almost psychic ability to predict human behavior. He didn't just understand code and data. He understood people. He understood how a stressed analyst would react, how a cautious middle manager would cover his own back, and how rival agencies would blame each other rather than look for a deeper cause. He knew that the government wasn't a single entity, but a collection of competing interests, egos, and protocols. And he played them against each other like a grandmaster playing chess. He would release a piece of conflicting information to two different security agencies. Then sit back and watch as they spiraled into paranoia and infighting, chasing ghosts of their own making. The nation's top security apparatus, the most powerful intelligence network in the world, was thrown into a state of utter chaos, all orchestrated by one man who, for all they knew, didn't even exist. Every move he made was executed with chilling precision. It was as if he could see the future, mapping out every possible reaction and counter-reaction weeks in advance. When the government's cyber defense teams finally realized that these weren't random glitches but a coordinated attack, they were already hopelessly behind. They were playing checkers while he was playing a form of three-dimensional chess they couldn't even comprehend. He was always one step ahead, not because he had faster computers or better tools, but because he thought on a completely different level. He led them on a wild goose chase through a labyrinth of false leads and digital dead ends that he had constructed just for them. Their best and brightest were made to look like amateurs. But here's the most fascinating part of his plan. His goal was never destruction. He had countless opportunities to bring the system to its knees. He could have crashed financial markets, blacked out power grids, or leaked state secrets that would have caused irreparable damage. But he didn't. He walked right up to the edge of the abyss, showed everyone the gaping void below, and then pulled back. His true purpose wasn't to tear everything down. It was to hold up a mirror. He wanted to force those in power to confront the arrogance of their own creation, to make them understand that their fortress, which they believed to be impregnable, was built on a foundation of sand. He wanted to prove that no system is too big to fail, and that the greatest threat might not come from a foreign power or a terrorist group, but from a single, brilliant mind that they had overlooked. Inevitably, the net began to close. By dedicating unimaginable resources and working backward from every single anomaly, the government's investigators started to piece together a faint digital echo. It was a trail of breadcrumbs. He had intentionally left a final signature on his masterpiece. They traced the source not to a hostile nation or a sophisticated hacking collective, but to a rundown apartment building in an anonymous suburb. They expected to find a command center, a server farm, a room filled with high-tech gear. When the tactical team finally breached the door, they found something that stunned them into silence. The apartment was sparse, almost empty. There was a simple desk, a standard-issue laptop, and stacks of books on mathematics, systems, theory, and psychology. There were no encrypted hard drives, no burner phones, no network of accomplices. There was just the man. It's quiet, calm, and waiting for them. The interrogation was unlike any they had ever conducted. He confessed to everything, explaining his methods with the detached air of a professor giving a lecture. The agents were baffled. This man had no record of international travel, no access to classified technology, no outside help whatsoever. Everything he had accomplished, the entire campaign that had brought a superpower to the brink, was achieved with pure, unadulterated intelligence. He had simply outthought them, utterly and completely. He hadn't broken the laws of physics or cyberspace. He had exploited the laws of human nature and bureaucracy. The government was faced with an impossible dilemma. How could they prosecute a man who was, in essence, a ghost? His crimes were so esoteric, so conceptual, that they barely fit within existing legal frameworks. Jailing him would be admitting that one person had single-handedly defeated their entire security infrastructure. It would be a confession of their own incompetence. So, they made him an offer. Instead of a prison cell, they offered him a job. A secret position, with unlimited resources to work for them to find and fix the flaws he was so adept at exploiting. They wanted to turn their greatest threat into their greatest asset. They sat him down in a sterile, windowless room and laid out the proposal. And in his final, most unpredictable move, he refused. He simply said no. He didn't want their money, their power, or their secrets. The game was over. He had made his point. And then he vanished. One morning, the agents assigned to watch him found an empty apartment. There was no sign of a struggle, no evidence of an escape. He was just gone. He disappeared as completely and as quietly as he had lived his entire life. To this day, no one knows his name or where he went. There are whispers in the intelligence community, legends of a ghost in the system, but no official record exists. He left no legacy but a single, profound lesson. The government systems were quietly and fundamentally overhauled. New protocols were put in place, and a new department was created. One dedicated to thinking like their unseen adversary, to look for the human flaws, not just the digital ones. The entire philosophy of national security was changed forever. All because of one man. An ordinary, invisible man who proved that the most powerful force in the world isn't an army or a government, but a single human mind. He remains a phantom, a question mark in the footnotes of history, the man who outsmarted the world and simply walked away. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy stories that challenge the way we think about power and intelligence, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this story in the comments below. See you in the next video.